Hey guys, welcome back. Mr. Marone here. Welcome into section 6.3, which is where we find our big figure of the chapter, really, which is the parallelogram. We're going to spend a ton of time with parallelograms, mainly because many of the figures that you know and exist are parallelograms, which you may or may not have known. So we're going to take a look at what a parallelogram is. We're going to define it. We're going to give you all the characteristics, because there are a lot, and we're going to start to use those today. So the whole first section of notes is just the details of what a parallelogram is. The second half is where we're actually going to put it into practice. So there are 4 pieces of information here that we're going to step through. The first thing is, if I have a quadrilateral, if we know that a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, or a 4-sided figure with 2 sets of opposite parallel sides. Okay, so the first thing we're going to need to know about our parallelograms is that our opposite sides are parallel. Once we know that we have a parallelogram, now we can list out our other details. So the first thing we need to know is if these 2 sets of sides are parallel, if we have a parallelogram, they're also going to be congruent. So the measure of xy is going to match the measure of wz, and the measure of xw is going to match the measure of yz. So the second thing we know is that our opposite sides are also going to be congruent. The next piece we know is that our opposite angles are also going to be congruent. So angle B is going to match angle D, and angle A is going to match angle C. So our third piece is that opposite angles are congruent. Our next piece is if A and D together, B and C together, are set up are consecutive angles. They can't be congruent to each other because A is clearly an acute angle, D is clearly an obtuse angle. But if we work through our relationship here, the consecutive angles are actually supplementary to each other. Okay, so consecutive angles are going to equal 180 degrees. Consecutive angles will always be supplementary. And then our final piece, our 5th piece of information, which is crazy that there's all of these things true about parallelograms, is that if I draw in a diagonal, if I went from x to z and from y to w, those measures are going to bisect each other. Be careful how we read this. They're not congruent to each other like they would be in a trapezoid. The diagonals bisect each other. So in other words, AW and AY are going to be the same, and XA and ZA are going to be the same. The diagonals themselves are not going to be the same measure, but they are going to bisect each other. There's a lot of properties here. This is a great little list to have copied down next to your notes if you can, or copy it down on a separate sheet of paper or another section of your notes. All of it's in here, but this is just a really shorthand way to remember it all. Even if you ask me for a post-it note when you're taking these notes and stick these on your notes packet, that's also a really useful way to do it. There's also kind of a collection down here at the bottom for you that explains all of it as well. Okay, so the left-hand side is all of our angles, the right-hand side is all of our sides and the diagonals. Now, let's take a look at some practice problems. So in these first couple, I first want to identify what they've given me, and they've told us that all of these are parallelograms. So all 5 of those traits can account, they work in this situation. So if we look closely at this first one, they gave us angle U and they gave us angle V. Those are consecutive angles. They're not across from each other, but they're consecutive. So that means that they're going to be supplementary. So 94 plus 22x minus 2 is equal to 180 degrees. I'm going to set each of these up and then let you go ahead and solve them, and you can come back in and find out all the answers. The next figure, they gave us side length LM and they gave us side length KN. Those sides are opposite each other, so they're going to be congruent to each other. We know that the opposite sides are congruent in a parallelogram. So that tells me 17 equals x plus 7. That's a quick one to do. X equals 10. So we're going to give that one as a freebie. The next one is where it starts to get a little tricky. So if we look closely, if this is a parallelogram, I've got angle M, they gave me angle M, and they gave me angle L. It's the combination of these two things together. those are consecutive angles. So we know once again they're going to be supplementary. So I have to add all of those together for my supplementary angles. So 24x minus 2 plus 12x plus 4 plus 34 equals 180 degrees. Once again, I'm going to set them up and then let you try to solve them. Solve those two, solve 1 and 3, and then when you come back in, you'll have the answers for you. All right, welcome back in. So on the left-hand side, we see solving down that we got x equals 4. In number 3, I wanted to just point it out. I actually stopped ahead of time purposely to show this. We found x equals 4. Be really careful what they're asking for. They asked for angle K. Angle K is right here. We don't have anything to go off of there, but we do know that it's the same thing as angle M. So we can use 24 times 4 minus 2 there. 24 times 4 is going to be 96, so we're going to have a measure of 94 degrees for angle K. All right, so we've got 2 more here, and then there are 5 and 6 that I'm going to let you try completely on your own, and then there'll be answers for you. So in 4, they've given us angle G, and they've given us angle E. They are opposite angles, so we're going to set them equal to each other. 72x plus 2 equals 146. And then here, they told us that RF, this segment, was 12x plus 1, and that RT, the whole length, was 26x. Since I have a parallelogram, I know these sides are the same, or that this is 12x plus 1 as well. So I'm going to do 12x plus 1, let's try that again, 12x plus 1 plus 12x plus 1, and that's going to equal this whole length RT, which we said was 26x. Go ahead and solve 4 and 5, and then this other set of 5 and 6, I don't know what happened to the numbering, and when you come back in, all 4 answers will be here for you. All right, welcome back in. So if you look closely at the top, I got x equals 2 for my first one, and I got x equals 1 for my second one. And then the bottom 2 that you were to set up, they gave you angle T, and they gave you the components of angle S, which are consecutive angles. So we're going to have to add those and set equal to 180 degrees. And when we do that, we got x equals 6. And then in this second one, they gave us this piece, and they gave us this piece, so we would set them equal to each other, since our diagonals are bisected. And when I solved that out, I got x equals 3. And plugging back in, seeing that we had to find FW, 5 times 3 is going to give you 15. If you guys have any questions, bring them in. This is going to be the first of a bunch of sections that deal with parallelograms, so we're not going to move on too quick. You'll get plenty of practice with this, but bring in any questions you may have. Talk soon, guys. Have a great day. Bye-bye.